I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
Hello everyone, welcome to Downloadable Content. I am Brian, and with me we have Ron.
Hey everyone.
For the first time in a few episodes, he was missing for the last few. He does have a life.
It's as people may not think, I do actually have things going outside of DLC. It's just they just synced up poorly for the last couple episodes.
That'll happen. We're supposed to have a Ryan in for this episode, but he might be currently occupied. If he shows up, he shows up.
He could be on an airplane right now, about ready to crash into the ocean.
He could, over the North Atlantic, near some lighthouse, just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Who knows? So, yes, what you just heard, that intro, that was a little blurb read by the character Andrew Ryan from the game BioShock, and that's what this episode is going to be about. BioShock celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, and my first thought when I heard that and saw that, I was like, what? BioShock's been out for 10 years already?
Yeah, it's surprising when you think about it, like, oh right, BioShock 1 was on the 360, and, like, for all the crap that people give the 360 nowadays, back then that was actually a semi-competent console, and I believe it got released on 360 first, and then it eventually came out for PS3 and PC.
I believe you are right on that. It was, it came out on, it came out for PC and 360 first.
Oh, okay.
So it came out August 21st, 2007, and then it got ported over to the PlayStation 3, a year later.
Alrighty.
So we had that whole little timed exclusive.
With the Windows bullshit, because, oh look, they're both Windows things.
Uh-huh. So I ended up waiting. I didn't play BioShock until it came out for PS3. So,
yeah.
But, I wanted to do this episode because even though typically when we do an anniversary episode of a game or a franchise, it's usually like 20, 25 years. But BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time, and this franchise actually really changed my opinion on FPSs.
Yeah.
On first-person shooters, because until this point, I was just like, all right, first-person shooters are really just one-note games, okay? You're dropped in a situation, kill everything, move on, do that ad nauseum until you beat the game. So when so we're going to be talking about BioShock, BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite, the three games that comprise this franchise thus far. So before we dive into this in detail, just want to remind everyone, every single episode of downloadable content can be found on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, as well as our website, dlcpodcast.com. You can also check out upcoming episodes and let us know if you want to be in on an episode. We only have a few more for 2017, and then we'll start looking ahead to the 2018 season. So it's all there. If you use the feedback button, let us know. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr, which is mostly neglected. Facebook and Twitter are probably going to be your best bets. So follow us there. Listen to every episode, all there. dlcpodcast.com. So, and one final warning, if you have not played any of the three BioShock games, I'm just going to warn you right now, there's a massive spoiler alerts. This is...
Spoilers. So many spoilers. Holy fuck, you can't talk about this game without spoiling certain things.
Yeah, it's just warning you right now. So if you don't mind spoilers, listen on. If you do mind spoilers, and this is a game you really want to play, and I really strongly suggest you do, stop listening right now. Come back to us when you have played the three games and go on ahead. So you have been duly warned. I don't want to get any feedback yelling from you saying, spoilers! Nope, you've been warned. And that's your final... That's all I'm going to say at this point. Massive, massive spoilers ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, I was intrigued with BioShock just from I saw the trailer. Somebody, as you all know out there, my friends know me, they really know that I love narrative-driven games. And I was shown this trailer as this game was in development, and the first thing that struck me right away was just how atmospheric a feeling I got just from the trailer. Forget the first-person shooter elements, just looking at the absolutely beautiful world that is Rapture.
Yeah, just the concept of like 1940s, like early 1950s, like building structures at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Like that by itself is like, oh, all right, I'm intrigued. You've got a really nice set piece here of like fighting in the middle of a skyscraper, but instead of it being outside in the middle and seeing the sky, you're seeing fish swim by, and it's like just absolute darkness surrounded by neon lights of the high pressure water. And you're like, all right, well this looks interesting.
Yeah, and the art major in me, the art history minor is going, oh my god, Art Deco everywhere.
Yeah. Art
Deco everywhere. Okay. We've got a sprawl, what you think might be a sprawling metropolis set here in the mid 20th century, and then some of the technology, like there's like a pinch of steampunk thrown in there.
Yeah, and the thing too is like it's mostly believable. Like, okay, plasmid, sure, magic, science, whatever the fuck you want to say that's not obviously not real, but like the diving suits of the Big Daddies are roughly mostly accurate for a high pressure water environment.
It's very plausible.
Yeah. The diving bell you go down in at the very beginning is would be what you would have used. Maybe a little. It might be a little ahead of 50s tech, which is what this first game is based in. But like, it's like 5 or 10 years ahead at most, which is definitely believable.
Yeah, I mean the bathysphere that they're called in game, and just you see and you hear the music of the period. Mm-hmm. So, American music in the 40s, so a lot of you hear the sounds of Perry Como and just
and then there's everyone's dressing in like 40s and 50s attire where it's like suit and tie. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Everyone's the events that happened in Rapture occurred during a New Year's Eve party, right? 1955 or something.
You're close. The start of the Rapture Civil War with New Year's 1959.
Okay, yeah.
The game begins in 1960.
Okay.
After a lot of the destruction and chaos has already happened, because... But you don't know this to start. I mean, you have this lighthouse, and the game...
Well, hang on. To properly set it up, here's the intro to the game. You're a man on an airplane having a cigarette, because that was a thing you could do in the 1950s and 1960s. You could smoke on an airplane. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. The airplane crashes, and you're left swimming in the middle of the ocean. And you're like, well, I'm fucking dead, because it's the middle of the goddamn Atlantic Ocean. There's not going to be anything around here for miles. Wait, what's that? What's that giant metal obelisk in the middle of the ocean? Well, it's land, so salvation. I'm going to go swim to it.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, you have the smoking, his music, and yeah, your character opens up a briefcase.
Yeah.
And suddenly an explosion... The plane, your vision is clearing, because the whole game is in first-person view.
Yeah.
You do not know what your character actually looks like.
Yeah.
North Atlantic Ocean. There's you surface out of the water. There's flames and rubble. It's just general. You're fucked.
Just, just okay, good. Okay, I survived the plane crash, but I'm in the middle of the goddamn Atlantic Ocean. Like I'm screwed 7 ways to Sunday here. There's literally no way I can survive. Oh wait, what's that?
Yep. You find a lighthouse.
Yes.
And you're like, all right.
Well, I don't know why it's here, but it's land, so yes, please.
It's land, and I'm in the North Atlantic Ocean. I don't want hypothermia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know the Titanic existed.
Yes, 1960. So it's like, yeah, we already know what happened almost 50 years prior. So you go into this lighthouse, and it's the only thing you see in it is just this entrance to this sort of spherical object.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there a statue in there too? And it's also got there's a plaque too.
Yes, there absolutely is. Because it's sort of this ornate-looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, this isn't your typical lighthouse. There's
It's Atlas.
Yes, thank you.
Is it? It is the Greek Titan, right? Atlas is the Titan that holds up the Earth.
Yes, it is. So you're seeing just these statues, and it's like, okay, this again, not your typical lighthouse, and there's this opening here. There's this spherical like object, and you only have one recourse.
Yeah, like there's no food, there's no water. It's just a room with a really tall metal man and this metal sphere with some like glass portcullises on it. You're like, well, there's literally nothing for me that can survive up here, so I'm gonna go inside it.
Yeah, it's this looming figure, and you see a banner that says "No gods or kings, only man."
Yeah.
So right off the bat, it's like, okay,
all right. Well, somebody's got a philosophy here. Good for them. But I kind of need some like dry clothes and maybe a little snack would be nice.
Yeah, I'm sort of freezing. But all right, maybe this thing, wherever it's taking me, is, there might be a way to call for help, something like that.
Yeah. And then, like, you get in, and then the thing just drops. Like, it goes from sea level to what? 10,000 feet down in about 15 seconds?
It's a sudden drop, and then you start, it sort of puts itself on sort of like an autopilot heading toward the city, and it's like, at this point you start seeing that there's this sort of civilization under the water.
Yeah, like, all right, and at this point you're like, all right, am I going to Atlantis?
The game is telling you clearly it's showing off its graphical chops. It's like, hey, look at this beautifully rendered Art Deco city in the middle of literally nowhere, under the ocean. Yeah. And you pass through passageways and under bridges and in between buildings. Yeah.
And along the way, you see people in the buildings, too. And you're like, all right, fantastic. I'm rescued, sort of. But why are they wearing masks? Is that guy in a deep-sea diving suit? Do you have a drill for an arm? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah. It's like you see this beautiful, beautiful world, and then you get out of and you get along the way. You hear Andrew Ryan's voice describing Rapture, things like that. You get out of the bathysphere, and you immediately see ruin.
Mm-hmm. There's some fire. Some of the walls are leaking, and you're like, oh dear, this is not good.
This isn't good, and. You find a radio.
Yeah.
And there's a voice at the other end of the radio. You don't speak into it. You hear this Irish sounding gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually guides you to safety.
Yeah. Well, relative safety.
Yeah, well, yes. But your arrival in Rapture catches the attention of one Andrew Ryan.
Mm-hmm. And because the radio frequency, it's basically like public band radio. So shortly after your arrival, you start hearing talk of Andrew Ryan and hearing him talk to you on the radio. And it's just like, all right, well, we know who you are now, and holy fuck, I'm getting smashed over the head with flippin' Atlas Shrugged all time now.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy, here comes the Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
But you see these really, really brutal creatures. They're people, but they're not people.
Yeah, like, oh look, these guys are like wearing like festive outfits and masks, and why is that guy throwing bees at me? Oh my god, all the bees.
Covered in bees and electricity. Yeah. And Atlas, who's just, becoming sort of, I guess, your voice through this new, strange environment that you're now in.
Yeah.
Leads you to your first plasmid.
Yeah, which I believe is lightning.
Yes, it is. And, that's an experience, because, here's this guy telling you to, inject this.
Wait, and you're like, wait, what? And he's like, listen, you're not going to survive if you don't inject yourself with high-performance steroids.
Yeah, basically. It's like, here!
And okay, there's steroids, and then there's being flippin' Storm from the X-Men.
Yeah, I mean... 5 minutes into this game, and you are thrust right into the action. You have somebody who thinks that you are a KGB spy who's found Rapture.
Or CIA.
Or CIA, yes. You find out over the course of the game that Andrew Ryan is a very paranoid individual.
Yeah.
But you inject this thing, and you see this, your character just going apeshit as this thing is rewriting your DNA.
Yeah.
and, you collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, because this is your first real view, while you're passed out, your eyes open just slightly, but you see a little sister, you see this little child who, little girl, alongside this big hulking dude in heavy armor.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, so you're the guy wearing a deep sea bathing suit, and then is a drill for an arm. And why is the little girl got glowing red eyes? What the fuck is going on here?
But they leave you alone because the little girl deduces that, oh no, you're not dead. Nope.
Yeah, you're not dead. You're just mostly dead. I'm going to leave you alone and just try and get more Adam from someone else.
Meanwhile, you're wanting to know what the hell just happened because you would have been dead right there.
Yeah, the worst drug trip of your life.
Yeah, I mean, this is really one LCD trip gone horribly wrong. I mean...
Uh-huh.
But you get up, and after some time, and you're like, oh, hey, what's this crackling out of my hand? And I love this every time you get a new plasmid.
Yeah, there's the little vignette.
Yeah, there's this little 1940s, little cartoonish instructional advertisement.
Yeah, and it's like, here you go, kids. Here's this thing called lightning hands. You just point your hands at someone and you just go, they're all fried up. This also means you can also electrify the water too, in case there's any little doohickeys on the water. You just want to have them fry for 1,000,000 degrees.
Yeah, brought to you by Ryan Industries or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
And you're like, all right, well, okay, so I've got lightning hands now. All right, I can work with this.
So, not to spend all episode going over every single plot detail of BioShock, we do have 3 games to get through.
Yes.
So, as you're exploring, now some of the things I really, really enjoyed about this game, again, my opinion of first-person shooters up to this point was a pretty poor one. But just the atmosphere, I mean, this wasn't just... kill everything and move on. I mean, there are times when you have a moment when you're not, overcome with deadly danger. There's a lot of quiet. There's a lot of eerie quiet. You can hear, the occasional background music or, the occasional advertisement or radio address, ding, ding. And
yeah. Let's also keep in mind, too, that during this, you're getting, piecemeal information about what the hell happened here in Rapture.
Yeah, I mean, while you're exploring, you find audio reels.
Yeah.
And they're recordings from different characters throughout Rapture, whether they be just your average citizen or Andrew Ryan himself or,
There's some scientists. There's the scientist who actually made Adam, and it's like, so you're telling me that I'm injecting myself with a deep sea slug?
Well, yes, you find that out. You find that out later. You find out just what the hell Adam is, and you find out that really this is a breakthrough of science.
Yeah,
plasmids were created. This wasn't initially found as a weapon. This was really an advance in science, a way to further
genetic engineering and taken to the extreme,
taken to the nth degree, because you find out that the more plasmids and the more Adam you consume, like a drug, you basically start losing it. It's like, yes, you gain all of these abilities, but at the cost of your mental health and physical health, because the more Adam you inject yourself with, the more lesions you develop. I mean, if you look at one of these characters, these enemies up close, I mean, you see they're covered in scars and lesions just from all of the Adam they've injected.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why there's such a push for makeup and masks and like plastic surgery, even in like this underwater quote unquote paradise.
But all the while you're exploring this very ruined but very beautiful environment, this beautiful city, I mean, you're getting also your main drive to keep moving is Atlas. And, he tells you what's happened, and he tells you about Andrew Ryan and how nasty this man is, and building up as you, the player, building up this very visceral dislike of Andrew Ryan. Atlas is just building this. I mean, I think one of the missions is you have to go down to like a dock or something because Andrew Ryan is holding Atlas's family hostage or something like that.
Yeah. I believe the first thing is you have to try and get yourself to safety, and then after that, Atlas wants you to go rescue his family because Ryan's holding them hostage, and then Brian bombs them, and it's like just straight up blows up the dock that they're on,
and the submarine,
yeah, which would have been like your only other escape option, really.
But along the way, you meet, you do eventually have to fight these big daddies. Mm-hmm. Those are fun.
Yeah. Also keep in mind, too, that a lot of the guns we're getting, you can customize as you go. And they're also not just, like, guns. Like, I believe the first gun you get is actually a rivet gun, and you just, like, literally shoot hot metal bolts at people.
You do find a pistol, though. I mean, it's one of your earliest weapons. I mean, you get your pistol, shotgun.
There are pistols, there are Tommy guns, and there is a shotgun. But like some of the other guns, you have a wrench for your melee weapon.
Yep.
There's the riveting gun, which is like your rifle, basically. And then there's a couple other ones that are really weird or unique too, and I forget what they are. But like, they're like okay, so I'm like, it's like construction tools. Is basically like what you're doing is like half these guns are actually guns and the other half are just like construction tools repurposed into lethal weapons.
Yes, you're making use of the environment here. Mm-hmm. And you have with your. I mean, you can only have in this first game. You can only have one plasmid and one weapon active at any time. You can cycle through them. But
you can hot swap to them, but it's like I think it's gun in the left and then plasmid right. Although it could be reversed.
It's plasmid one hand, weapon the other.
Yeah,
which makes for some very nice, nifty combinations. I mean, if you want to conserve ammo, if you find that you have a bunch of enemies in water, it's like, all right, I remember second grade science.
Yeah. Water is a conductor,
so
not a resistor.
I'm going to shoot the lightning into the water, and while these guys are getting fried, I'm going to use my wrench for an instant kill. Mm-hmm. Save you ammo, because ammo is not particularly abundant.
I mean, there's usually enough to get you through killing the smaller guys. But for a big daddy, like you generally end up blowing through a lot of it.
Yeah, it's like you think you have enough ammo, and there are times when I do play this game where you do max out on ammo for all of your weapons, but then in comes a big daddy, and it's just like, nope.
All right,
this is how we balance the game right here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and speaking of big daddies, we got the other thing that goes along with the big daddies. The little sisters.
Yes, the little sisters, which are immune. You cannot hurt them at all.
They're immune to damage, but here's the thing. To get more Atom, which lets you unlock stronger plasmids and customize them, you need to either find the Atom itself, which is very, very rare, but the usual thing is you need to defeat a big daddy guarding a little sister, and then either free her, or I'm sorry, you need to either release her, or quite literally kill her and drain the Atom from her body.
And that is where a bit of the plot comes in, because you meet Dr. Tenenbaum, who is the scientist who discovered and created Adam. And there is a bit of a morality thing here, because what you do with the little sisters determines the ending of the game.
Yep.
Now, you can either harvest them or save them. You can heal them. You're given a plasmid that will kill the sea slugs that are embedded in each little sister, which turns them back into just your regular, everyday, normal girl. So, it's a thing. It's like, how do you want to be ruthless, or do you want to be, kind and loving? Either you're going to get a bunch of Adam from harvesting the little sister, or you're not going to get as much Adam, but, you do wind up...
There's the moral right versus the like, survival right, I guess.
Yeah, this is the survive at all costs right. So, what you do from there, I mean, this happens, every single level. There's usually between, I think, 2 and 5 little sisters as you go through each of the different areas of Rapture.
Yeah.
And as you progress, you've all the different areas of the city. You have the medical pavilion, you have Nature's Bounty, the Smuggler's Hideout, Fort Frolic. But all the while, you're picking up bits of information about the city and its citizens, and you find that for all of its beautiful glitz and glamour, this is really a shitty place, because as you find out, this is a city where literally anything goes. Like, except for murder.
Yeah. It's pretty much like you can't murder another person, and you can't tell anyone else that Rapture is here. Like, that's it.
And you can't.
Everything else is pretty much up for grabs. You can do drugs. You can do prostitution. You can do gambling. One of the main jobs is literally going back up to the surface and like doing raiding missions on either other ships or trying to secretly trade goods and resources with the mainland, because Rapture is not really a self-sufficient city
yet. At least that was the intention, but
yeah.
But you still needed a resource to get going. But you find out that Andrew Ryan is a very shrewd and very, very cunning businessman, and you find out that the entire driving force behind Rapture was to have a society where capitalism ruled all. Total free market based economy. No regulation, no safety net, just, with the idea of, and taking the idea of the American dream all the way to the nth degree. If you work hard, you'll get to the top, just like Andrew Ryan did. And so there's, Andrew Ryan is a strange individual, because he's also an atheist. No religion at all allowed in Rapture. One of the very few rules. So
yeah,
there are
and that's actually one of the contraband things you find too. Is like
Bibles.
One of the recordings is it's literally just like people wanted to steal Bibles because even down on the bottom of the ocean, there's faith. There's faith in a higher power.
So, which is forbidden, and you find out about this other character who has been basically a thorn in Andrew Ryan's side, who goes by the name of Frank Fontaine, whom, as you progress through the story, you find out is supposed to be dead. He was killed in a raid, and he's supposed to be gone. But at the same time, you find out that this Atlas character, this guy who's been guiding you through Rapture, he's this champion of the lower class, and because
he's the union man to Ryan's capitalist money squandering asshole.
Yeah, I mean, think of Andrew Ryan as basically the entire 1%. And when you have a quote-unquote utopia based in where there's no rules...
Yeah.
There are no rules. It's totally, utterly laissez-faire capitalism. It's human nature. They're going to try to cheat the system. And do!
And generally speaking, succeed. Because I don't care what society you build, there's one thing that you can't defeat, and that's human nature. For all the goodwill and good intentions that people have, some people are just going to be giant shit shows.
And in Rapture, that behavior is rewarded because it's seen as, a good, honest day's capitalism.
Yeah.
There's no safety net, so nothing like no Social Security or Medicaid.
No Medicaid or anything like that.
Nothing like that. I mean, this is really a situation where if you fall on hard times, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're fucked, and no one is going to help you because they're all going to be too busy trying to profit off of you.
Mm-hmm.
So there is complete discontent, and it's what ultimately leads to Rapture's downfall. But you find this out over the course of the game. Also, I will put a plug in for the novel that was written by John Shirley. It's a prequel novel to the first game, and it does a really, really good job of describing the events leading up to just before the start of this game.
Yeah.
So, all the while, you're building up this total loathing of this capitalist asshole.
Yeah. And it's not like he's not like apologetically... he's not like apologetic about it. He's like, yeah, no, I know I'm a fucking asshole, and I'm proud of it because I'm a man and I'm admitting to my faults. So fuck you.
You find out though that as you get just this talk, you hear Andrew Ryan's speeches of the parasite and how he hates people who rely on handouts and who need help. It just, oh man, just the game really, really pushes you to just loathe this man.
So is he basically like a pre-Hitler, pretty much?
Basically. Hi, Ryan. Welcome.
Hey, yeah, I had some last minute stuff that came up that I had just gotten your message a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, oh well. But anyway,
welcome. You're not too late to the party. We're still in BioShock 1. So
yep.
So
I remember that.
We're just before the reveal. So
we're just before one of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the thing is, since I read the prequel novel, I actually do feel a little bit of pity for Andrew Ryan, because for as much of an asshole as Andrew Ryan is as a character, he actually has some ideals. They're firmly rooted in Ayn Rand's objectivism beliefs, but they're ideals nonetheless. It's, and the fact that he completely underestimated human nature with who he brought into Rapture. Just, he did not want to become what he ultimately became. He did not want to have Rapture full of he didn't want to have to commit executions or have all this super ultra security or find ways to dispose of the malcontents of society. Because you find out that in the novel, Andrew Ryan is actually a Russian immigrant. And he fled the Russian Revolution and then the communism of Russia. And over the course of the game, it's one of those, you live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah.
Sort of scenarios. Well, that's what happens to Andrew Ryan. But over the course of this game, you not only find more and more evidence of just how destitute and how bad Rapture fell. But you also have some pretty memorable boss battles in there. Not the least of which, one particular Dr. J. Steinman. Do you remember him?
I think I remember.
He was the plastic surgeon.
Oh, yep. I remember him all right. And yeah, that one was that was a fight that was just like die already.
Dr. J.S. Steinman, who he rose to a degree of such prominence as a doctor and a surgeon, but like so many others in this game, he abused Adam, and it basically caused him to lose his grip on reality.
Yep.
I mean, Andrew Ryan brought him down to Rapture because he was a very successful orthopedic surgeon, but he was more well known as a plastic surgeon, inventing techniques that really revolutionized the field. And so he set up, he was invited by Andrew Ryan to set up shop in Rapture, and, Dr. Steinman saw Adam as something to enhance his practice. And he became so obsessed with the anatomy of the human body, he basically wanted to... He basically treated his patients no longer as patients, but as canvases. So he was doing a lot of unnecessary surgeries and sculpting, quote-unquote, bodies.
Oh, yep. Because I do remember, actually, one of the more interesting things when you go into his area, when you have to fight him, is the whole thing of the theater productions that he liked to put on with that, and how creepy as hell those were when you were going against him. Ugh.
You might be thinking of Sander Cohen.
Oh, that might be. Yeah, I think that's the
Sander Cohen, who basically created actual human marionettes.
Yep.
Okay, that's later. That's another nut job. But he Steinman was so, like, you hear his audio diaries as you get closer and closer to fighting him in the medical pavilion, and it's just, oh my god, bad touch. Ooh. Because, Adam was causing him to also get high on ether, which is an anesthetic.
Yeah.
And, even before he came down to Rapture, you could hear it in some of the audio diaries talking about Aphrodite speaking to him. So this guy was already a little bit mentally, But, whew, that battle was fun. And, yeah, so Dr. Steinman, that's your first major boss, but...
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you have other, major characters that you have Sander Cohen. You have Peach Wilkins, who was, I believe he was a member of the... Was he? No, I thought he was a member of the press. No, he was one of Frank Fontaine's people.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the big smugglers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember. I still remember him a little bit from that.
He was basically hired by Frank Fontaine to smuggle shit from the surface.
Yep.
And, if you remember, all the talkings of Andrew Ryan talking about the great chain of industry.
Yep.
More Ayn Randian, bullshit.
Yep.
I could go hours on this, but no, I mean, eventually you fight your way through, and then finally, I thought I was getting closer and closer to Endgame, because when you find Rapture, Andrew Ryan's office is in this place called Hephaestus.
Yeah.
Which is the big source of Rapture's power. And it's literally Hephaestus is located on a fault line in the ocean where it draws geothermic power, and that's what supplies Rapture's power. And this is where Andrew Ryan is ultimately found. And, when you find him, it's not like he's there waiting in his office, guns a-blazing.
Also, keep in mind, too, that as you're walking up to it, you're starting getting a feeling of, like, wait, Atlas is getting more and more forceful and brutal in his language. Like, there's something weird going on. And then, like, you're starting to read the walls and pick up some of the more audio diaries. And at this point in time, you're trying to talk about, like, encoding phrase words and, like, some sort of, like, assassin agents and, like, people to send up and, like, try and infiltrate Fontaine's organization to, like, code word, like, hidden spy, double agent bullcrap. And you're like, all right, this is getting a little creepy here. What the hell's going on?
And, I wasn't catching up on this. I mean, I started to suspect something was up, but not necessarily with your character. But, after Andrew Ryan destroys the submarine where Atlas's family, quote unquote, is on. I mean, I just attributed that as to Atlas really getting pissed. His family has been murdered, and he wants you to kill the fuck out of Andrew Ryan. Just but you find him, and
he's just a guy in a suit.
He's got
just kind of looking at you, just talking to you.
3-piece suit, spats, playing golf, just putting some balls, and that completely took the wind out of my sail. I was like, I'm getting through the Hephaestus power station. It looks like the 8th level of hell, and
you get to the top, and you're like, wait, why are you just sitting there golfing? Well, aren't I supposed to have like a giant boss battle with you?
Like,
what?
I'm completely disarmed at this point. He's just casually playing golf, and then just this giant exposition dump that Andrew Ryan puts on you. That he finally figures it out, and your name is Jack, the player character. You were actually born in Rapture 4 years prior to the game, genetically modified to age quickly. You find out that you're Andrew Ryan's son. You're his bastard child because he had an affair with his hooker. She's a dancer in the game, but he also finds out that this dancer, her name is Jasmine Jolene, she sells the embryo to Frank Fontaine, and your genetic makeup was designed so that you obeyed orders that are either preceded or followed by the phrase, "Would you kindly?" And all of that, you start thinking about all of the favors that Atlas has asked you to do through the hours of this game up to this point.
Cue the flashback, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh,
shit.
I remember, I remember these words, and I'm now remembering doing these actions. Oh crap!
Because they didn't go out of their way to tell you, because would you kindly? It's so innocuous. You just think that this is just Atlas's manner of speech. That's all.
Okay, keep in mind too that he's talking like an Irishman, and his dialect, other than being like the common man, like he's asking for a favor, because in your point of view, it's like, okay, yeah, I want to escape, so to get out of here, I'm going to need to do a couple favors for this guy. Like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
why would I think anything differently about this?
Like, you've come to trust this guy.
Yeah, and you're saying like, would you kindly like go and investigate the submarine, see if my family's okay. And you're like, at the time you're thinking like, okay, he's politely asking us to like, check on his family. And you're like, all right, that makes sense. Like, he's a family man. He's an Irish family man. He just wants to love his family and wife and children. And then you get to Andrew Ryan, like, oh dear.
So you're getting all this expo dumped on you. You further find out that you, as Jack, you were sent to the surface when the Rapture Civil War started by Fontaine, so that Andrew Ryan could never find you.
Mm-hmm.
And that when the war between Fontaine and Ryan was basically at a stalemate, you were sent instructions to get on a plane with a briefcase and use what was in the briefcase, which you find out is a revolver, to hijack and crash the plane near the lighthouse. And because, and just the level of deception continues, because I think you find out that the reason why you've been able to get through all of the security protocols was because Andrew Ryan had them genetically coded to him.
Yeah.
And because you are Andrew Ryan's son, you share the same genetic code. That's how you could get through all of the doors and all of that, because the systems are like, oh, you have Ryan's DNA, you may pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at the end of it too, Ryan's like, no, I'm going to drive home the point of how fucked up the situation is, so you can understand what you now need to do. Would you kindly take this golf club from my hand? Well, you do. Would you kindly kill me with it?
All the while, Andrew Ryan is screaming, a man chooses a slave obeys.
Yeah.
And you're just beating the shit out of Andrew Ryan, as
with a putter.
With a golf putter, and suddenly this climactic battle that you thought you were going to have, because you to this point you were like, I fucking hate this 1% shit. I'm gonna kill this Ayn Rand love child. And suddenly the emotional your perception of Ryan, like, almost does a 180.
I mean, he's still a piece of shit.
Yeah,
but
the layer of deception ran so deep that you were just completely blindsided by it.
Mm-hmm. And oh, by the way, at the end of all this, after Ryan is dead and literally has the half of a putter sticking out of his forehead, Atlas pops on and says, hey, would you kindly go turn the keys to the kingdom over to me? And you're forced to. Like, you're genetically coded to obey him, or to obey someone that says this, and you literally I think you take the Andrew Ryan's corpse and stick his hand in like some sort of machine, and then Alice walks in, surprise, Alice is Fontaine, and he now runs all of Rapture, which now means he controls all of the atom in the city. And also
you also just tripped all of the security mechanisms, because Atlas, now Fontaine, has no further need of you. Oh, we're going to trip the self-destruct.
Yeah, and it's like, all right. He's like, all right, you did your job. Now fuck off and die. I'm sorry. Would you kindly fuck off and die?
Basically. So now you have to escape all of the security systems.
Yeah.
Now you have to get the security systems. Oh, by the way, you're dying because Fontaine told you to die. I need to figure out how to not die. And Tenenbaum shows up at the end, saves your body, and says, all right, you fucked up bad, but I can fix this. And by fix this, I mean fix you. And she says, I I can cure the genetic thingy, but you have to do me a couple favors first, and then as you're running around doing this, you're slowly losing health. And it's not too fast, but it's definitely a race against time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a beat the clock.
Yeah. To get to get enough sea slugs and genetic material to change to remove the "would you kindly" phrasing from your DNA. And you succeed in doing so. And at that point, it's kind of like, well, there's only really one thing left to do. Go kill Fontaine.
Mm-hmm.
And when Fontaine, you could see the look on Fontaine when, he's using these the phrases that would have instantly killed you. But after, but
he's like, would you kindly shoot yourself in the face? And you're like, yeah, no, fuck you. And he's like, what's going on here? I actually have to work now? Well, shit.
And then, that final battle where he puts himself in a machine and just absorbs all of the atom in existence.
Oh my god.
And he becomes more akin to his namesake of Atlas, the Titan god, and than anything else.
So,
and you have your big boss battle then. And then at the end of it, Ryan, correct me if I'm on this, you weaken him and he blows you off and you're struggling on the ground, and then all of a sudden the little sisters come crawling out of the woodwork and literally stab him so hard with their plunger needles that they drain his body of all the atom in it.
You're correct.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You are correct. That's how that goes. So, and then of course the endings are dependent on what you did with the little sisters. There are 3 endings. There's an ending in which happens if you saved all of the little sisters. There is an ending which happens if you killed some, if you harvested some and saved some others, and then there's one where you harvested them all.
Yeah. I believe of the 3, if you harvest them all, it is like, quote unquote, the bad ending, because you become crazy with power. You then eventually command the little sisters to hijack a submarine from the surface, and that said submarine has nukes on it.
Yes.
I believe the quote unquote neutral ending is similar to the bad ending, only you don't actually fire said nukes.
The ending is visually identical to the bad ending, but the tone of Tenenbaum's narration is like a sad tone of voice instead of an angry, pissed off one.
Mm-hmm, okay. And then the good ending is if you save all the little sisters, you basically bring them all back up to the surface, end up adopting some of them, and then live the rest of your days with them in relative peace.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you are returned to the surface, and I think there's like 5 or 6 little sisters that actually do return to the surface with Jack. They live out full lives. You see shots of them, I think, graduating from college.
Marriage, and I think also just starting families of their own.
Yes. And you see, like, the last thing you see is like an elderly Jack on his deathbed surrounded by the little sisters who are now adults. So, and that ending is considered the canon ending.
Mm-hmm.
That ending is considered the canon ending. So, which you find out in BioShock Infinite. So,
yeah.
Yep.
But the thing to keep in mind too is that when this is all said and done, people are kind of like, "Holy crap, that was fantastic! I want more." How many awards did BioShock 1 win?
Tons. I know it definitely. While you're looking that up, I mean, the voice work in that game was absolutely beautiful. Just Andrew Ryan, the voice actor for Andrew Ryan, is an actor that probably a good number of people out there on the internet know well. He goes by the name of Armin Shimmerman, which, if you ever watch Star Trek, he is the actor who plays the Ferengi Quark
Oh.
So Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. So, it won awards in 2008 for art direction, original music composition, sound design, and story development by AIAS. I don't know who that is. It won Best Game of the Year from BAFTA in 2007. Game Informer gave it 2007's Game of the Year. IGN gave it its PC Game of the Year. Spike TV gave it Best Game of the Year. And XPlay gave it Game of the Year. And the reviews scores for this thing are all
glowing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Metacritic's like the lowest is a 94 on the PS3, and then that's probably because of the fact that like everyone had played it already on the PS on the PS3 360. Like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9.5, 9.7. Like the only awkward one here is Edge giving it an 8 out of 10, and I think that's just sort of because they were fucking.
There's always an outlier.
Idiot.
There's always
there's always a Russian judge.
Or a French one, however you look at it. But, just after I completed this game, I mean, this game was such an emotional and wonderful narrative experience that I was blown away. I was just well done, Irrational Games, Ken Levine and his team. I mean, what an amazing, amazing game. And as I said at the beginning, this game changed my opinion on what a first-person shooter could do.
One of the most interesting things, and especially as I found throughout all the BioShock games, I don't know if you mentioned this already before or not, Brian, but just the artwork and graphics of Rapture itself just stunned me when I first played this game. Like how grandiose it was, and how the grandiose was actually hiding the darker secrets within it. It was amazing. And like they managed to create like beautiful bureaucratic dystopia in this, if you ask me.
No, that's pretty accurate. I mean,
yeah.
That's, when we started talking about the beginning of the game when, you're first taken down into Rapture, and, this is where the game is showing off its graphical chops with how you see this beautiful city, not knowing that it has been ravaged and destroyed by civil war. And, I mentioned this already, but, I suggest that you two definitely get the novel, the prequel novel, and read it, because it's a very nice narrative of how Rapture gets created from beginning to really just before the start of the first game. It's largely told from the point of view of a character called Bill McDonough, who opens a bar in Rapture that you go to called the Fighting McDonoughs.
Ah, yep, I remember that bar.
So it's told from the point of view of from his character. So, I really suggest you read it. So, and then it came out, I think, last year, the remastered edition of 1 and 2. We'll talk about 2 in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing it, and this is how I know I need a new PC. My graphics card will shut down playing the remastered version because it's drawing too much power from the power supply cannot take this. So like after 30-45 minutes, depending on where you are in the game, the graphics card just shuts right down because it cannot take the awesome. The remastered edition actually looks really good. Like I played some of the original and then the remastered just to compare. I'm like, holy shit, they actually did a really good job shining this up. So, I could go on and on, but we have 2 more games to discuss, and we've already gone an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think we could discuss 2 relatively quickly because of the 3 games in the series, I would argue 2 is the weakest.
Yeah, true.
Yes, but I still we'll talk a little bit about it. So we'll do that now before we get to the intermission.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
So, BioShock 2, which, actually Ken Levine did not have a hand in.
Oh, wow.
Because this was BioShock 2 was an executive decision made by 2K Games. They did not go to Ken Levine. Irrational Games did not have a part in this at all. This was the publisher going, BioShock made bank quickly, let's take advantage of it.
I mean, it's not like it took a. It's not like it did an 18-month turnaround. Like, BioShock 1 came out August 21st, 2007. BioShock 2 came out February 9th, 2010. So it's not like it took. It's not like this was. It's not like this came out a year later. Like, they took like almost 2.5 years to make.
I mean, I say that Ken Levine, had no part in it. That's not entirely true. I mean, he had some input, but this was not his brainchild the way the first game was.
Yeah.
So there was some of the same staff. I mean, Gary Skyman, who was the composer of the first game, came back to do the second game. He also does BioShock in it, so he's the composer for the entire series. But because BioShock 2 also takes place in Rapture, I mean, a lot of the graphical assets were already in place. So, in terms of graphical look, and to get the feel of Rapture, that was already made.
Yeah.
But, you find, just diving in, you find that BioShock 2 begins on New Year's Eve 1958, which takes place 2 years before BioShock 1. And you see this Big Daddy, goes by the name of Subject Delta.
Yep.
And he's just walking around Rapture with his bonded little sister, goes by the name of Eleanor. And you find that, Eleanor gets separated by Subject Delta by her mother, Sophia Lamb, who then uses like a mind control plasmid to make Delta kill himself.
Yeah.
And, what? And Sophia Lamb, I'm like, wait a minute, that name sounds familiar. Because that name popped up in the first game. And there are, you find out, about Sophia Lamb also, during the course in much more detail. But you're actually playing as a Big Daddy in this game, which is, for me, I started this and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, you ain't got no stinky little wrench now. You got the giant fucking drill for your melee weapon.
But
they also kind of modified a bit in BioShock 2 as well.
Well, yeah, because you're playing as a prototype Big Daddy. Because remember, the immediate setting, it takes this introductory sequence takes place 2 years before BioShock 1.
Oh, that.
So you're in a prototype Big Daddy. So it's not the final form. This is when the Big Daddies were in development. So you wake up 10 years later. So now we're 8 years after BioShock 1, and Rapture has really just been left to the dogs at this point. So you're revived at a Vita chamber. I love those things. You start receiving messages, telepathically, mind you, from Eleanor pleading for help. So you run into Dr. Tenenbaum again. And I'm just like, really? You haven't gotten the fuck out of Dodge?
I think what was her explanation in game is that she couldn't leave her children behind, and by children she means little sisters.
Yep. That's exactly it. But I'm
like, all right, but there is such a thing as called a submarine. You could take him up to the surface with you, you dumb broad.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, Andrew Ryan is dead. And, so you don't have to worry about the stupid genetic code bullshit anymore. You can leave!
Yeah.
But, anyway. So you find Dr. Tenenbaum again, and, you have to find Eleanor because, and here, this is the kicker, if you don't find Eleanor, your heartbeat's gonna stop.
Yeah, you're basically gonna die.
Yeah, again.
because you are genetically bonded to your little sister, and if the link is broken, you're dead. So you find a new, round of questionable characters.
Questionable. All right.
Very like the slimy Augustus Sinclair. Oh my god,
I hated him so much.
Oh man. And you find out because they keep the same thing with the audio diaries. So again, you find out that Andrew Ryan brought Sophia Lamb to Rapture as a psychiatrist to help those who were struggling to cope with the fact that, hey, no sunlight ever again. Hey, I can never leave.
Because 10,000 feet down, and I'm a fucking paranoid asshole.
Yep.
So, as Sophia Lamb is getting, learning about the citizens of Rapture, she starts coming to the conclusion that the self is the root of all evil and corruption. So she uses these ideas during her therapy sessions as a way to sort of convince or coerce or brainwash, if you want to use that, her patients into a cult called the Family.
Yep.
So Sophia Lamb, thinking that the idea of the collective was a much better way to go about society than a focus on individualism the way Andrew Ryan did, the two of them engaged in debates. And because Andrew Ryan was like, I've got nothing to hide, I'll gladly debate you. But as the population of Rapture was coming around and agreeing more to Sophia Lamb's sort of view, Andrew Ryan had her imprisoned. So, yeah.
Yeah. Not bitter at all about that. Not bitter at all.
But, like, the entire time you're going through this, like, you're seeing that Rapture is still pretty fucked up. Like,
yep.
Oh, yeah.
10 years of little to no maintenance has not improved things, and a lot of the issues that we saw a little bit of in BioShock 1 are just compounded more in BioShock 2, where it's like I don't think they ever even really say in BioShock 2 that things return to quote unquote normal. I think the city has just been left hobbling along like half dead.
It has.
And it is only now really coming to the point where here's the final tipping point. Like, do we abandon Rapture or do we try and salvage what we can out of it? And this is what like Sophia's plan is like, yeah, no, fuck all y'all. We're all going to become one giant sentient being because Adam has genetic memory. So I'm going to make the ultimate being that becomes the embodiment of the family and inject literally everyone's DNA and memories into Eleanor and basically make her Borg Queen from Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, you also find out that Sophia Lamb is just as, I guess, deranged as Fontaine was, but in a different sort of sense. Whereas Fontaine was only in it for himself and only himself.
Yeah. Instead of being greedy to one person, this is not greed of one person, but more so trying to eliminate the notion of the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
eliminate the notion of the self.
Yes, that's more accurate. And also, while you're finding out all this, you have to, you have the same plasmid, sort of ideas and whatnot, but you since obviously you cannot fight Big Daddies because you are a Big Daddy, you get the Big Sisters.
Those are fun to deal with.
Oh my!
They're really fucking creepy too. So
Yeah.
they're okay. So you like for real, they don't know. Little sisters are like 8-year-old girls running around with really fucking large syringes, to drain Adam. Big sisters are teenagers that do like superhuman Spider-Man leaps around the ceilings and shit like that. And they have those syringes supersized on them, and they try and absorb the atom out of your body while you're still alive.
Yeah.
And they also have that creepy as hell screech.
Yeah, they screech and they got like long black hair usually or something like that, and it's just like.
Yeah, it's.
And oh, by the way, they're still wearing that exact same dress, only it's sized up to be like a teenager size, but it's still fucking creepy. It's like, all right, here's this tall, lanky, like 15-year-old girl with a syringe literally the size of my torso, like trying to absorb my blood.
Yeah, they kind of reminded me a little bit of the Lickers from Resident Evil in that sort of creepy sort of way, just obviously without the damn syringe. But
Yeah,
and you have a whole new cast of oddball freaks. I mean, you had J.S. Steinman and Sander Cohen and Fontaine in the first game. Here you have Grace Holloway, Augustus Sinclair, Simon Wales. Oh boy. Simon Wales is the priest.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
He, I remember that he was just he was a religious wingnut who, because of Adam, it becomes like a spider splicer. Say that fast. Who believes that Eleanor is some sort of key to paradise or heaven or some such shit. Oh my god. Stanley Poole, that was the character I was thinking of, who was the reporter.
Oh, yep.
Yes. And you find out, again, another big plot reveal about who, because, obviously all of the big daddies in Rapture were human at some point.
Yep.
Same with Little Sisters.
Yes.
We find out, was it in 1 or 2 where we find out where Little Sisters come from?
2, I think.
Yeah. Tenenbaum literally kidnapped every single little kid in fucking Rapture and genetically experimented on them to figure out where they could actually hold Adam in their body or not.
Yeah.
And when she found out that it was basically all confined to 7-year-old girls, she's like, well, I guess I'm putting all these sea slugs in 7-year-old girls now.
Because something having to do with the composition of the body at that age makes it so that if you put a sea slug in their stomach, it's perpetual Adam.
Yeah. Because physics works that way.
Science. So you find out that you were a guy that was nicknamed Johnny Topside.
Yep.
And you were just a regular guy that literally stumbled upon Rapture by accident.
Yeah. The reason why you're nicknamed Johnny Topside is because you originally came from Topside. Yeah.
Yeah, you were above the water. So this was a guy who literally, he was not part of the CIA or the KGB or some other secret government agency. He literally stumbled onto Rapture by accident. But because of Andrew Ryan's utter paranoia, he was kidnapped and Andrew Ryan ordered him made into a big daddy. So, but you also find out that, this guy who was giving you this exposition, Stanley Poole, the reporter, you find out that it was actually Stanley Poole who tattled on you to Andrew Ryan. So you're given the option of whether to kill him or spare him. Just like you do with Grace Holloway, you have the option of killing or sparing her.
There's also an Alexander, I believe, that you can have the same option for.
Gilbert Alexander.
Yeah.
Who you find he is driven to insanity by absorbing a gigantic amount of atom. Gilbert Alexander was he was a scientist who worked for Fontaine and then later Andrew Ryan, and he was the one who invented the mechanism that bonds big daddies to little sisters.
Okay.
So,
And I believe he also created the Big Sisters.
I'll have to look at that, but
I think he did.
He might have.
Yeah. You find Eleanor and attempt to rescue her, but along the way, Lamb stops her heart for a couple seconds, which is just long enough to basically permanently sever the connection between you two and leave you dying on the ground.
Oh yeah, you're rendered unconscious, but you are given. I believe you're given. Eleanor's like, nope, not just yet, fucker, because Eleanor at this point realizes that her mother is nuts.
Yep.
Eleanor is like, no, mother is insane. She's going to be Norman Bates if this doesn't...
At this rate, yeah.
She's well on her way. So you are given a plasmid that allows you to take control of a little sister.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and I think Eleanor asks you to bring her part of the big sister armor. So,
Which I think was basically the injection nodule bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Mommy Dearest gets pissed and decides that, fuck it, I'm gonna self-destruct the entire fucking city. So you have this final wave of the family.
Ugh.
Sophia Lamb mortally wounds you, so Eleanor has to make the decision of whether to kill or save Mommy. And depending on the choices that you made throughout the game, you'll get, again, different endings. There are 3 endings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's it again. I mean, I enjoyed this game, but not as much as the first because there was a lot of the same. It was very, I mean, from a plot perspective, I thought it was really interesting because you get to see basically what happens to Rapture with the other end of the extreme. You had Andrew Ryan with his the individual is everything, the capitalism, it's
the individual is all that matters versus Sophia's the individual is nothing.
Yeah, so
it is the masses that matter.
So it was nice getting to see the story from both extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to admit that playing as a big daddy, was
that's fun.
That's pretty fucking awesome. I'll give
it. Yeah, I think people didn't like Rapture 2 because
BioShock 2.
Yeah, or BioShock 2. Come on, Rapture 2.
It basically is the same thing.
Yeah. But people really didn't like BioShock 2 as much because I feel that a lot of the story elements, like the story of Rapture, what made Rapture so iconic was told and explained to us through all of BioShock 1. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really need to see the opposite extreme in this same locale in BioShock 2. The concept of the self does not matter, it is the masses that matter. Like that's an interesting concept, but it should have been played out in a different location.
Mm.
This is just my opinion. I think having BioShock 2, if BioShock 2 had taken place on, I'm just going to throw out like a various location, like some like Great Plains-esque location where it's just like sweeping hills and things like that, like nothing but like massive farmland, and like just open air space would have been a better location for an exploration of the notion of the self does not matter. It is the masses that matter, because you have all this open air and things like that. Because it is the setting that does, and like the location kind of helps drive home that notion of the individual matters, and it is capitalism that matters, because you are in BioShock 1, you are sitting in a city in the bottom of the ocean where your focus is all on like one person or a select few people. You usually focus on yourself and trying to make yourself survive in this harsh environment. And I think about if Shock 2, if they had done it in a wide open area where like you can see from miles and miles around in all directions, then there would be no sense of self, because there's so many things around you that you can take in that would have maybe further driven home the notion of it is not the self that matters, it is the family that matters, or it is the community that must survive. But that is very philosophical and kind of, I think this is the concept of the BioShock series as a whole that Ken Levine really did have in mind. Of he had a particular theory or notion in mind, and he wanted to push that notion as hard as he could in both story development and game development, which is why I think many people see number 2 as a relatively weak game in the series, because he didn't have as much of a direct hand in making this as he did in BioShock 1 and 3.
Yes.
I should say.
Yes, I mean, and that whole idea of taking an idea and pushing it to its narrative limit, thrusting it on you. I mean, I really get that sense in the first game, and definitely in BioShock Infinite, which we're going to get to. That's on the other side of the break. Because, we've got BioShock Infinite coming up, and it's a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the reason why I wanted to push for BioShock 2 in the first half, because it's the weaker game, but like, if you thought things got weird in the city of Rapture, wait till you get to Columbia.
Oh god, yeah.
So we're gonna take a bathysphere out of Rapture and up into Columbia, and also go 50 years prior. So that'll be on our second half. So we'll have some music, and would you kindly stay tuned for the second half of the BioShock 10th anniversary episode right here on Downloadable Content? We'd love it so much. Welcome back to our BioShock anniversary, 10th anniversary of the game and franchise. We are all still here. I got this lesion on my arm. I don't know what it's from, but
Yeah, you may want to get that looked at.
and
Brian.
there's I don't know. There's a few bees that are coming out of my hand.
Yeah, probably not a good thing, Brian. Not very good at all.
I'm sure you can just apply a topical cream to it and it'll clear up.
Put some hydrocortisone on it.
Yeah.
It can clear up in a few days. We're going to talk about BioShock Infinite in this second half, but just we talked about the plasmids in the first half, but we didn't go into great detail about the specific ones, and we won't go into all of them here because there's a bunch. But I mean, just some of my favorite ones. My absolute favorite ones were the ones where you can have a splicer help you. Like there was there'd be a group of enemies, and you just throw this this plasmid. I forget what it was called, but and suddenly the splicer turns on its enemy on you. It starts helping you. And I'm like, oh, great. And the same thing for, the security turrets, the gun turrets where you could hack them. We didn't even talk about the hacking at all.
For as fun as the hacking and the charmings and the things like that, there's nothing for me. There's nothing better than just the raw primal power of throwing a bolt of lightning at someone or immolating them with literally fire hands.
Yep.
And you too can become Roy Mustang.
Yeah. just snap of the fingers, and there goes someone's whole day.
Yep, just done. And so you had that plasmid, and just because it reminded me of Eddie Izzard every time, the bees.
All the bees, every bee,
bee, just covered in bees.
Buzz.
Yeah. Oh,
I think you also had the telekinesis was a favorite one to use as well for a few things.
Yeah. I'm trying to think some of the other ones that were really interesting.
I think they had
an ice one. I think.
Yes, I believe so.
But I don't remember if it was like literally throwing cold ice at someone, or whether it was a ice spikes or something like that. I don't remember if it was.
I think it was ice spikes that you could use for that one.
Yeah, you had for BioShock 1, you had the Electro Bolt. You had Enrage. That was the one where you could get a splicer to start attacking its own. You had Incinerate. You had Insect Swarm. You had Security Bullseye, Sonic Boom, Target Dummy, Telekinesis, Winter Blast, Hypnotize Big Daddy.
For those times we need to clear a room of splicers, or you just want to see what would happen if a room of splicers went up against a Big Daddy.
I forgot.
Spoilers. The Big Daddy wins.
I forgot about that, because you don't get that one right off the bat.
Post Ryan. Yeah, you get that one post Ryan, I think.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. It's just oh look, here's a Big Daddy, and there's a room of splicers up ahead. Well, I could kill them both, but that would waste a lot of my resources.
Why don't you do it?
Well, yeah. Hey, buddy, would you kindly go kill that room full of splicers for me?
Oh, it was a thing of beauty, but
it really was.
And then usually after the room was done, he's half health, and I'm like, all right, nice job, buddy. I'm gonna put you out of your misery now. You're retired. This is blame. All right, I get your Adam now.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
It was, but I love the security. I love when you could hack a security bot to help you, because the same thing. I mean, if there wasn't a Big Daddy nearby, but you had a room full of splicers, it's oh, here, flying gun turret, go get him.
But to get back on track,
BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite. Yes. BioShock Infinite, which
takes what was it? Takes place
1912.
48 years before BioShock 1. You play a private investigator from the Pinkerton
Pinkerton.
Yep, Pinkerton.
Which
Yep.
was an actual legit company. Like these,
Yes, it
these
was.
people actually existed.
Yeah, it was. You play a private investigator detective by the name of Troy Baker. I mean Booker DeWitt.
Look at it.
He's in everything now. I'm sorry. It's just
Well, let's be honest. If you're playing a video game, it's probably got Troy Baker, Steve Bloom, or Matt Mercer in it.
Yeah.
If it's not one of those three guys in that game, you know that it's probably not a AAA game.
so yeah. So you're taken, I think, to yet another lighthouse.
Yep. Ryan,
Always the
Ryan,
lighthouse.
there's a theme here.
It's like, I get it, Mr. Levine. I see what you're doing. So, but right off the bat, you have this bit of plot that you go, because you're thinking, you have instructions.
Yeah, you must go to Colombia and rescue a girl, and you have a picture of a girl, and you have a little wood block case, like a little lockbox. That's what I was thinking of. A lockbox with a picture of her, some gold / money, and then a service pistol.
Yep.
And the entire time that you're getting rowed up to this lighthouse, you have who you believe are your I believe you think that they are your employers, and they're just talking back and forth the entire time of so yeah, here you just have to go to Colombia and go rescue this girl. That's all you gotta do. But the entire time it's it's a guy and a girl talking back to each other, and they're having banter back and forth. They're giving you the instruction that they have witty banter back and forth, and then they're can I interject in here? And they're yeah, no, screw you.
Yep. The Luciat twins, I think, is what they.
Lutece.
Oh, Lutece. Yep, Robert and Rosalind.
Yep. But they drop you off at the lighthouse in the middle of a rainstorm. And
I get it, Irrational. I get it. I get the theme here.
Yeah. But you get to the lighthouse and you get to explore a bit of it, and you're all right, well, not like BioShock 1, I don't go down. There's only one way to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go up the lighthouse to where the beacon is. All right, what's this button here? Okay, there's a capsule here, so maybe I am going down. Again, wait. Why am I hearing rumbling? Oh no.
Oh crap.
Yeah. As you proceed to look down and watch as the earth goes smaller and smaller, and somewhere along the way you drop your gun too.
Yeah, so pre-NASA here.
Yeah.
So no, you're not going to Colombia. It's haha, I get the joke, Levine. I get it.
Yeah.
I get the joke, because,
But no, it gets better. It gets better. You then proceed to land on Columbia, and you get wafted down the river as Southern gospel is being sung at you.
Oh,
And
that's right.
Only instead of it being like Moses and Isaiah, you see Washington and Thomas and Jefferson and Lincoln immortalized above your head as the Southern folks sing to you about the praises of the American forefathers, and then you get baptized in the waters of the thing and almost drown in them.
Yeah, right. That whole idea of if you've ever seen the movie "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," and just that there's this one scene where all the guys are getting baptized in the river and stuff, and it's oh wow, jeez.
Yeah.
So it's I'm having flashbacks to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just okay, so these guys are patriotism taken to the absolute extreme.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Literally worshiping the forefathers.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, you see, and this really, right here, freaked me out, because you see Washington, specifically, Washington, Ben Franklin, and Jefferson in, like religious robes. Like this is the ultimate marriage of Christianity and American symbolism. Like part of it is scary because, you know, this is kind of fiction because, you know, given our current Republican Party, this is kind of the end goal. It's,
it's funny. It's funny to be like, yeah, this isn't real. This isn't happening. Fast forward 4 years, and you're like, oh dear God.
Oh shit.
Oh dear God. Did Ken Levine predict the future here? Oh dear God.
Yeah, him and Hideo Kojima are like freaking prophets here, and you know. I'm looking at this, and all the while you're hearing it's an actual song. It's called "Will the Circle Be Unbroken." It's not a song that was written for the game. It's an actual sort of Southern gospel song. Yeah,
it's
it's really a song.
It's actually not a bad song.
No, it isn't.
But whoo boy, I see these three figures, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, oh my god. It's the Tea Party's wet dream come to life.
So, and then the game finally truly begins. Like, you get led into Colombia after being baptized in the water of the forefathers, and like, there's a fair being held. Like, it's like a state fair. Only, excuse me, how are we staying afloat in the air? Oh, we have anti-gravity balloons. What? What?
And then
you're like, yeah, surely you know this is the wonders of the doctors. And you're like, wait, what doctor? And you're like, yeah, you know, the doctor. And I'm like, wait, I didn't know Doctor Who was in this game. I didn't know we had a license with the BBC.
Royalties here.
What's the actual doctor's name? It's a girl, though, right? Well, there's a couple doctors. I remember there being a guy doctor. And I remember there being I thought there was a girl doctor that handled most of the science behind the balloons but holding up the land masses that held onto Colombia.
You're right. I'll look at that. But you know, keep in mind also you're not just here on for shits and giggles. You know, as you were on approach to Colombia, you were taken here because these two individuals that were rowing you to the lighthouse, the girl for the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Get the girl, repay the debt.
Yep,
or something like that.
One of the main things that I actually really liked with the beginning of the game was the whole like you mentioned before, Brian, was the whole fair atmosphere of Colombia when you first arrived, and it it's like the old time carnivals and stuff like that. And the experience that I kind of gathered from it when I first played through BioShock Infinite was so look, they're celebrating how great Colombia is, celebrating how awesome it is. Of course, though, as we know in all games of BioShock, what may look good on the outside is never the truth.
Case in point, that you discover relatively quickly that there's a lot of white people walking around, like a lot of white people, and you start seeing some signage of being like, Brian, correct me in the wording here. Do they say Negro or do they say some other derogatory term?
Oh no, it's they would not use not that N word.
Okay,
I believe it is Negro that they do use.
Okay, but basically it's like no Negroes allowed. Negro bathhouses, Negro water fountain,
the racism is alive and well.
Oh yeah, it's not even alive and well. It is enforced to a high degree here. Pretty much all the working class is African American, and I'm not even saying like the people that are I don't mean I do not mean the store clerks or the custodians. I mean the actual physical hard labor people that are helping keep the engines running for the goddamn flying islands.
Oh yeah, doing the dirt. It's not just people of color. It's foreigners.
Yeah.
It's basically, if you are not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, fuck you, you're a second-class citizen.
Yep.
And it's encoded and enshrined and part of the law. And yeah, so again, the Republican Party's wet dream is in this game. And how we know that, we'll get back to the game in a minute, but this, do you remember some of the controversy this game caused on its release? Because because people saw that and like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. And it's like, yes, that's the point. Ken Levine's got a point going on here. Play the rest of the goddamn game. Don't spend the first 15 hours of the game proselytizing and analyzing the first 5 minutes of it. Yeah, I mean, this game really, the themes of the racism and religion and an ideological society, they were, Levine and Irrational Games, they were criticized by the Tea Party,
because they wanted to put Southern Baptists in a very bad light.
And, so apparently there was some websites claiming the game was an attack on the labor movement.
At the point, I'm just like,
and and I knew that this game was going to be great when it pissed off Fox News.
Oh, please, Fox News gets pissed off at anything and everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god! When the fact that this game was causing white people to be uncomfortable with the fact that this game portrayed historical accurate racism. This is 1912 we're talking about.
Yeah. Like this isn't like, okay. Disclaimer. Racism is bad. I don't think that needs to be, there's no argument there.
No, not at all.
Yes, racism is bad. And Americans in 1912 are fucking terrible people.
Americans in 2017, but
yes, but we're terrible for different reasons. Americans in 1912 are by and large racist assholes. No foreign workers. We're pretty racist to African Americans. Like no Irish. No Irish need not apply. Things like that.
Oh yeah, and this game has that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god! And it made a lot of white people uncomfortable. And I'm going, truth hurts, doesn't it? But
yeah.
And it also had quite a bit of stuff with sexism dealt with it as well in BioShock Infinite, as Elizabeth's character showed.
Oh yeah, and I'm playing this game and I'm seeing all of the themes of racism and hyper religion and
sexism too.
There's
definitely a theme of sexism too.
And I was made uncomfortable by it, but but you're supposed to, because you're like, ooh, right. American history. Ooh. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm white people. Oh, and I'm white.
But back to the story at hand is that we need to find this girl, and there's a fair going on. All right. Well, let's see if we can't take advantage of the fair and get some information. Where did this free handout you're giving me? Why is it in like a green glass bottle with like a heart on it? Why am I getting a tingling feeling all through my body and in my lower region? They're like, you just had a plasmid. You're like, wait, what? What? Wait a minute. Hang on, I know what this is.
Yeah,
well, you're about 45 years too early. What's going on here?
Yeah. Holy shit. Wait a minute. These haven't been invented. They're called Vigors.
Vigors and tonics, I believe.
Yes, because, plasmid wasn't, And the first question that you have is you just brought up on, it's like, okay, wait a minute. We're 48 years from the first BioShock game. How?
What's going on here?
How? Another thing I noticed, and this is just so good at how good this series is storytelling. You hear a barbershop quartet singing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" by Cyndi Lauper, but it's done in barbershop quartet like ragtime. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and you're like, and it's like this all through the wonders of like the doctors and like such new technology and new things that are being enlightened for us forefathers. Surely this is the gift of the forefathers shining down on us white people.
Yeah, the founders.
Yeah, and like at this point in time, you're like, all right, there's something really fucking weird going on here, but we still need to let's put all this aside for a moment and just focus on finding the girl.
But hey, carnival! And I'm seeing all of this, and I'm playing this, and I'm seeing all this festive atmosphere, and I'm like, I expect to see the Omaha State Fair balloon.
Yeah.
With the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. So, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Does the coin flipping happen before you find Elizabeth or after you find Elizabeth?
Before.
Yeah. So you somewhere along the way you get introduced to the Lutessa twins. And you don't know, they sound familiar.
And they have a specific theme music. Did you notice that?
Yeah. And all they ask you is like, hi, sir, we just want you to flip this coin for us. And you're like, well, why? Just do it for us. There's no reason. And you're like, all right.
Would you kindly flip this?
Yeah. And you're like,
this.
Yeah, it's like, sure. And like, you get to pick head or tails. And they have a little chalkboard where it says heads, middle, tails. And you say your answer, and then you flip it. I believe the game has it be that no matter what happens, whatever you say, it flips to the opposite.
And they keep a tally of it.
Yeah, and they keep a tally of not what the coin flip is, but what you said.
Yes.
Which is like, okay.
And that's it. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. And you're like, thank you. Have a nice day at the carnival. And you're like, all right. All right, let's find this girl. And you're like, okay, let's try and find this girl. And then, Brian, when does all hell break loose? Is this during the carnival that it happens, or you just...
Because as I'm reading on here, there are certain 2 letters that are found on Booker.
Yes, the tattoo on his hand, AD.
AD. Yeah.
Which you don't know what it stands for at this point.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like he's walking around, and like I think he gets let up on stage for some sort of like reward or something like that.
Yeah.
It's because you entered a raffle. Somebody entered you in a raffle in one of the town squares.
All right, yeah, and then you won. Like, hey, congratulations! And you're like, wait, AD, heretic, kill the heretic.
Yeah.
You go from like literally 3 seconds of like Happy Card Festival to literally the end times are here and everyone's trying to kill you.
Yeah, you get.
And it's
you
just
get
like. What the fuck?
You're the winner of this raffle. You're on stage, and this was the first real point where the racism really hits you in the face, because remember, gentlemen, you're announced as the winner, and as you're on stage, you're offered the prize is the first throw of this winning baseball, the first throw at an interracial couple.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yep.
And you're like, what? Yeah, no, thank you, fuck off. And you try and not throw it.
Well, before you can actually throw it, the announcer and the police see the AD on your hand. So up until this point, you're just like, all right, we've got a city in the air, and it's festive, and there's a lot of white people, and somebody had me flip a coin, but no, you win this raffle, and as a prize, it's take this baseball and throw it at this interracial couple. What?
Yeah, you're just like, no.
No,
Can
I don't.
I throw it at you instead, please?
But
You're an asshole.
but the police see that there's an AD on your hand, and it is made known that this is the mark of the false shepherd who was prophesied to take Elizabeth, the girl, from Colombia. All hell breaks loose.
Yeah. Children crying in the streets, mothers running around, like, and every man in the town square has now suddenly got a knife or a pitchfork or a torch and is literally looking to cleave your head off. At which point you're like, yeah, bye-bye, and you do the Scooby-Doo run out of there.
And yeah, because now it's mass hysteria, and you're fighting your way through this, and you meet up. You wind up at this restaurant, I think, where you get to meet the Lutesses again. Hey,
Like, and they're just sitting there having tea, I think, or something like that. And they're like, yeah, you really shouldn't stay here. You need to go find the girl. I'm like, wait, what do you know about her? And it's like, never mind. There's a mob chasing after me. Gotta get out of here. Somewhere along the way, you get the contraption that goes on your arm that lets you ride the air rail.
the skyhook.
Yes, the guy had a thing.
That was fun.
That's a ton of fun, and I'm like, oh, hook shot. But
Yeah, you get Skyhook, which lets you ride around on the air rails, which connect the islands together in like a tram system.
That's fun though. That's just like whee.
Yeah, and then there's the fun combat involved with it, where you get to literally like jam the gigantic metal hooks into someone's face and rip it up like a chainsaw.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. And I think it's shortly after all of this stuff, and you get a breather. I think, when do you first hear about Comstock?
I believe you hear about him shortly after you get the Skyhook, because you're trying to make your way up to Elizabeth, because you finally see a picture of Elizabeth, and you're like, oh. So the person I need to go capture to bring back down is this Elizabeth girl, and she's this like maiden of the Columbia. She's like literally the princess of the town, and she's got her protector, who is the songbird.
Yes, the songbird, and there's this device called the siphon, I believe.
Yeah, and
so
this is like, oh. Great. And you now spend, and then you hear about Comstock shortly after, because it's believed that Elizabeth is Comstock's daughter, and that Comstock is the quote-unquote king of Columbia?
The prophet.
He's the prophet.
He's the prophet.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't remember what title they gave him.
Now, but I remember this first encounter with Elizabeth. She is fleeing with you, but hello, songbird.
Yeah, but that's a little bit later, because it takes a couple like Skyhook trips to get up to where the siphon is.
Yeah, but when you free Elizabeth, the songbird actually comes in and destroys the tower.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So, basically a big daddy with wings?
Yeah. But the thing, too, is like the entire point in time, too, is it takes you a little bit to get up to Elizabeth. It's like maybe an hour or two
it's
into the game.
Not immediate.
Yeah. And throughout all this, you're kind of like, all right, this is a really fucking weird place, but I'm just focusing on getting the girl. And you get to where she's being held at, and, like, they're studying her for some reason. Like... And they're like studying some like really weird things, like how many times rifts appear when you're like, what? Her menstrual cycle. There's like a lightning show that they do with one of the pads that like removes the blood on it or something. I don't remember. There's some really weird shit that they're doing with studying Elizabeth. And like at the end of it, you finally see Elizabeth, and she's in like this like giant library, and is just a girl in a dress reading a bunch of books. And you're like, hi. Like, and you're like, and she looks at you and she's kind of like, oh, you're not one of the scientists. And she's kind of like a little surprised by you. And is this when we first see her open up a rift?
It's yes.
Yeah, like she opens up, like she literally like reaches behind, like she goes to run away, and then she runs into a tear in space and time and appears across the hallway. And you're like, oh, what?
And Booker, you are just like, what?
What? What? Now things are just like all sorts of fucked up. Here's this girl who looks to be like 18, literally ripping holes through time and space, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
But okay.
But okay, and eventually you talk her down, and she agrees to go along with you because you're trying to take her away from Columbia, which is, funnily enough, the one thing she wants. She's like, I want to get out of Columbia.
Yeah, she wants to. She wants to go to Paris because she's always wanted to see Paris.
Mhm.
Now, along the way, and this happened. This again, instead of going, play by play here, you find out the goings on of Columbia. The way BioShock had it set up was the audio diaries. In here, you have the 10-cent kinetoscope machines.
Yeah, which are literally clay plates, basically.
The kinetoscope machines, which are and they were things that actually existed, where you put like 10 cents in a machine, and it's you look through this one viewer, this sort of peephole viewer, and you crank a film, or like a 10-second or like a very short film plays, and they're all officially sanctioned up the news from the prophet. So they're modeled after like 1910s, 1920s newsreel footage, which tells you about a Columbia and Columbia exerting political influence, and it talks about Zachary Comstock and how Columbia earned the wrath of the United States government for not taking part in World War I, or something like that.
And you're like, wait, what World War? That didn't happen yet. You do flee with Elizabeth on an airship. She thinks you're taking her to Paris, but then upon seeing the coordinates of you going to New York City, she knocks you out and steers back to Columbia. You recapture her, and along the way, you end up talking with Fitzroy. I'm trying to figure out what his first name is.
Daisy
Fitzroy.
Daisy Fitzroy, yes, the Vox Populi.
Yeah, we need to arm the Vox Populi, which is the voice of the people, literally.
Yep, that's that thing. That's your Latin translation.
Yeah, you need to arm them with a gunsmith. But along the way, things get fucked up. To the point where Elizabeth tears through reality, to the point where they eventually wind up on a world where Booker died in service of the Vox Populi, which sparked a civil war between the Vox Populi and the rest of Columbia. Mind you, the Vox Populi is pretty much the second-class citizens of the entire fucking Columbia.
They're all the people of color. They're all the foreigners,
the women,
immigrants, the women. Yeah. But yes, so Elizabeth with these tears she's just like, I'm just gonna rip this hole in space-time, that hole in space-time, this hole in space. What are you doing?
At this point, as a player, we're going, what the fuck are you doing? You're literally destroying the laws of reality. In game, Booker's like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on. but if he keeps me alive for 10 seconds longer, sure, go ahead. Eventually, Elizabeth has to kill this world's Fitzroy to stop her from executing an innocent boy.
Yes, also because one of the alternate realities that Elizabeth takes them to, Booker is dead. So
yeah,
so Fitzroy can't have Booker.
Yeah, the player Booker.
The player Booker alive, because if word gets out that Booker is not dead.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, but you were my friend. And let me just say this. Elizabeth, for being a companion, is actually pretty competent. I'm glad.
Oh yeah, no.
She can fight really well, actually, which I was surprised at.
She is. Irrational really did a good job making it so that she, because when Elizabeth joins you, my first thought was, please don't let her become the next Ashley Graham. Please,
yeah, don't let the rest of the game be an escort mission. Please, for the love of God, don't let it be an escort mission.
For the love of God, if I start hearing "Help me, Booker," I'm gonna throw the controller.
Yeah. No, she's really confident. She hides behind cover. If you ask her to open up a tear in space to see like a gun turret or some new cover, she'll do it for you. She'll even reload some of your guns or throw you some additional bullets for your guns if need be.
She'll find a weapon, and all the while you're going through all of this, just like in BioShock, trying to build up this hatred toward Andrew Ryan, you are hearing so many unsavory things about Zachary Comstock, who is, your quote-unquote main antagonist of this game. Just how much of a white supremacist, racist, bigot jerk this guy is, who basically is commanding Columbia with just this perverse mixture of Christianity and American exceptionalism. Again, the ultimate wet dream of the current Republican Party. So I'm going to keep saying that. So,
you find out more about Comstock and how the twins built the siphon to try and inhibit Elizabeth's powers, and he's trying to groom her to become like the leader and eventually like subjugate the land below for spiting him in his youth or something. And you chase after her as Booker because the Songbird captured her
again,
and then you wake up in like a ruined factory in a snowy landscape, and you're like, wait a minute. Okay, being the sky is a little cool, I can understand that point. But I went up into the Columbia in July. It shouldn't be snowing. What the hell's going on here? And it takes you a little bit of exploring and some stealth mission-y bullshit, because there's some really powerful enemies that you can't easily kill running around. And eventually you find out that you're not in 1912 anymore.
You are in 1984.
Yeah. And you got pulled into the future. And you got pulled into the future by that timeline's Elizabeth. And she's an old woman. And she is currently ruling over the burning remains of what is New York City. And she tells you that if you don't rescue me in 1912, I'm subjected to decades of torture and become brainwashed, and then proceed to burn pretty much all of America to ashes. So, stop that. Here's the keywords to stop Songbird, and I'm sending you back to 1912.
Yeah. Before that, though, you get a bunch of exposition dropped on you. Like, finding out that the Lutece twins are not actually siblings. They're two versions of the same physicist from two different realities. Rosalind, who is originally of this universe, while Robert comes from the other. Comstock had Elizabeth taken from his alternate self in Robert's universe. This is where the plot gets really crazy.
So to really, I don't want to say simplify the plot, but to explain it, do they reveal who Booker is at this point in time? I don't think we get that revelation till later.
That's later.
Yeah.
You just know that Comstock was playing, with time and space. He stole Elizabeth from his alternate self and adopted her as his daughter because he had been rendered sterile from constantly using the tear device in order to make his quote-unquote prophecies come true.
Yeah.
So, he tries to, he had the Luteces make the siphon in order to try to subdue Elizabeth's power, and then he tried to kill them, along with his wife, so that to hide the truth about where Elizabeth actually came from, and to blame their deaths on the Vox Populi. But, oopsies, he inadvertently spread the Luteces throughout multiple universes!
Yeah.
Then, Booker gets to the Comstock house. Elizabeth is captured by Songbird, and then comes the whole old Elizabeth scene there. So, back to 1912, he gets shoved.
Yeah. So, back in 1912, Booker goes and rescues Elizabeth, and they pursue Comstock on his airship. And Comstock at this point in time is this, 60-year-old man with, a white beard, and it's, screaming and yelling at Booker about how he needs to explain Elizabeth's past to her. And this entire point in time, Booker's like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You're a crazy old man that's caused all this suffering and chaos and death. I'm putting you out of your misery. And you bash him on the head on a baptismal font and then drown him in the water.
Oh, I love when a theme comes together.
Mm-hmm. And at this entire point in time, Elizabeth's just like, I don't think Comstock was wrong, but I don't think you need to remember what's going on here, because your memory is a little fuzzy, Booker. To which he's like, you're not wrong.
And then the big reveal.
Well, that's before that the big reveal happens after the Vox Populi try and blow up Comstock's airship. And you need to use Songbird, who is now under your control, to basically fend off the Vox Populi long enough for you to blow up the siphon, which is holding back Elizabeth's powers. So you succeed in doing so, and you blow it up, and she now has access to pure unlimited power. And pulls you and you and Songbird into Rapture.
That made me so happy.
Yeah, it's a little sad because you guys get pulled into a building, but Songbird doesn't, and so he gets crushed by all the underwater pressure.
Yep.
And it's like, aw, I kind of feel bad for you, but at the same time, you're a giant prick. So, bye.
Yep. Bye.
At this point in time, you're kind of like, okay, Elizabeth, the fuck is going on with you? And you finally get an explanation for all the powers that she has. She is somehow able to tap into all the other timelines in the universe. And I mean all of the timelines. As in infinity. And we get the name drop of the fucking... You're like, oh, this is why it's called infinite and not 3.
And it also explains what the whole significance of the lighthouses is.
Mm-hmm. There's always a man, there's always a lighthouse, there's always a city.
Yep.
And we find out that Elizabeth is your daughter.
Yes.
Elizabeth is your daughter, and oh, by the way, Comstock is you!
Yeah. So what ends up happening is sometime in October 8th, it says, based on what I'm reading on Wikipedia here, October 8th, 1893, Robert Lutez approached Booker on behalf of Comstock, requesting that he, quote, bring us the girl and wipe away the debt, referring to Booker's infant daughter, Anna DeWitt, which is what the AD branding on the hand is for.
Mm-hmm.
And he reluctantly agreed, but he changed his mind and chased after them. They barely escaped through a tear in reality, but Elizabeth, Anna/Elizabeth, was not spared this pain, and actually got part of her pinky severed off.
Yeah, when the portal closed, it...
Yeah, which is why she's got that little thumbnail, or is it thumbnail?
Thimble?
Thimble.
Mm-hmm.
Thimble on her pinky.
Yep.
But this ended up... It's really fucking confusing, but it's basically like a grandfather paradox, making sure it doesn't accidentally write itself out of existence.
Yeah, because that one little pinky ensures that Elizabeth exists in two realities.
Yes, which is what allows Comstock to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And also gives Elizabeth the ability to open and create tears at will.
Yeah.
So the whole reason for this, for you being there, is because Robert Lutez is angry at how Comstock treats Elizabeth and Comstock's betrayal.
Yeah.
He convinced himself, his female self, to help bring Booker to Columbia in Rosalind's reality to help rescue Elizabeth, hence the rowboat.
Yep.
And so Elizabeth goes on to explain that whatever actions Booker takes against Comstock is going to remain alive at least in one of these universes.
Yeah. So, it ends up being that Booker was originally a soldier, and he took part in the Battle of Wounded Knee, which, for those who aren't aware of American history, it's a really fucking brutal fight between the American Army and Native American Indians. And it was really fucking brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And the Booker of that timeline wanted to try and atone for his sins and be baptized, because he wanted to try and wash away the sins of his past to become a new man. Well, here's where the timeline splits, because some realities, the Booker doesn't take that, doesn't get baptized, and in our reality he does, and becomes and the Booker that does become baptized becomes Comstock. And the only way to break that timeline difference would be to kill Booker.
Yep.
So the end of the game is you, as Booker, dying as Elizabeth, like a bunch of Elizabeths basically drown you in the baptism water, because it's the only way to, quote unquote, fix the timeline is if Booker dies during the baptism.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a result, Comstock and Elizabeth never exist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that we've gone through the plot of this game here, I had to play the ending of the game a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, to fully understand
as
it.
fuck.
Because, anytime you insert time travel in a game, it's...
Okay, it's not just time travel, it's time travel, alternate realities, multiple states of existence, the theory, the basic string theory,
the grandfather paradox.
The grandfather paradoxes. It's also funnily enough that we started seeing hints of this too, because in one of the realities you saw Elizabeth tear into, one of the theaters, the background drop of the tear she tore into is is a French translation of Revenge of the Jedi, which for those who are not
yep.
which for those who aren't aware of it was one of the potential titles for the Return of the Jedi Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
also, the two doctors are the Lutece twins.
yeah,
And so with their knowledge of tears, they're the ones that go into the future and bring back elements, which is why you hear a barbershop quartet of girls just want to have fun.
yeah. So it also explains why there's plasmids, because the doctors went to the future and grabbed them from Rapture.
So
It also came out too, like the twins are basically trying to seed various ways for them to eventually defeat Comstock,
yes.
and they had to work very slowly and very deliberately to eventually create a scenario for where this Booker in this particular timeline could come from.
And I think it is mentioned in the game that they've tried over 100 times.
Yeah, which is what the coin flip board was for, actually.
Yes.
Because the coin flip board was basically them just being like, seeing how the various Bookers reacted to like various things, and because it's a variable that they can keep track of.
Yep. And it's just when you finally make sense of all of this, there's that sort of aha moment of just how brilliantly woven seamlessly the narrative is.
Yeah.
Like these tiny little things which, don't seem like anything at the time. But when it all comes together, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Like definitely give Ken Levine props. Like he definitely sat down and really thought this out and made this pretty believable. Like, based on current operating of physics and quantum physics and realities, like pretty much the only thing that's a real big stretch is the fact that Elizabeth can make tears. But he even gave that an explanation, and it's like, all right, I guess that makes some sort of sense.
And just it comes full circle. You hear the song of the just will the circle be unbroken? You hear that several times throughout the game, and it becomes this major driving narrative theme right from the beginning of the game, to drowning Comstock in a baptismal font, to the end where you realize that in order to prevent ever the existence of Comstock, Elizabeth, and Columbia, you have to die.
Yeah.
So it wraps it's so seamless, and it's like, bravo, sir. Well fucking done. Just 4 for you. Just how brilliantly the story comes together, while also not pulling any punches with some of the more grisly aspects of American history. Just nicely done. Absolutely nicely done. And, from again, story standpoint, gameplay standpoint, it felt really, really nice, really fluid.
Yep.
Some of the...
I will actually add in one thing with the gameplay, though. There is something that was actually added new into BioShock Infinite, if you remember it, 1999 mode.
Oh, what was that? Because I know you unlocked... I think that's you unlocked it when you beat the game, I think.
1999 mode is an extremely hard mode for BioShock Infinite that you unlock after you beat the game, and it's pretty much like a survival mode in a sense.
Yes, that's I was like, no, nope.
No. Another interesting thing that I'm reading, which I didn't realize, there's an even easier way to unlock 1999 mode. The Konami code. I read that and I'm like, really?
And just some of the enemies in the game that really freak me out, like the robotic weaponized George Washingtons.
Oh, yeah.
Like the fact that they were originally built to be tour guides for Columbia and then got reprogrammed. Just shouting propaganda while firing at you.
Luckily, those can be hacked very easily.
I'm just let's see what some of the vigors in the game. You had the bucking bronco.
Yep, Murder of Crows. I think was the first one you get.
Oh, just because we can't have bees, so you can summon crows. Shock jockey.
Ah, yep. Their game's version of Electro Bolt.
Devil's kiss.
Fire. Yep.
Possession.
That was a new one, actually. I think for Infinite. Yep.
Yeah, you had Possession, and then you had Return to Sender. And Undertow.
Undertow was an interesting one to use. I didn't really like it very much, but Undertow, what that did was it allowed you to summon water in a sense, like almost like a mini version of the Kraken.
Well, yeah, that was the that was it. The symbol was definitely the Kraken. It's like, yeah, you could either attract and repel enemies, and it reflected all incoming projectiles and pushes all enemies back.
Yep.
So, just some of the moments in that game. Like, I remember the most vivid memory of the game I have, just the final battle with the songbird. That was long.
Yep.
That was long and difficult. So, because it's like, here, use this. So, I have not played, and I want to, but I do not have them. The Burial at Sea DLC, which came with Infinite. So I don't know if either of you have played that.
I haven't played either of them, but I was reading through. I know the storylines behind them. It basically, without spoiling anything, it tries to explain how various things that happened in Colombia eventually wind up occurring in BioShock 1. and explains how certain events occur where that allow BioShock 1 to play out, which in a way ends up being like a closed time loop where if these things don't occur, BioShock 1 doesn't happen. BioShock 1 doesn't happen, then in following the chain of events, eventually BioShock Infinite doesn't happen. So it is both a closed circuit for the tale of Elizabeth and also a closed circuit for the tale of BioShock as a whole.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, I'm looking forward to playing that, but I mean, just now that we've gone 2.5 hours talking about these three games, and that's fine. Just overall thoughts on the BioShock franchise. It's become one of my all-time favorite franchises. Just the way Irrational Games and Ken Levine created these very, very immersive worlds using the first-person shooter as the basic framework. And some of you might think that, narrative-driven first-person shooters, Halo. But, I played BioShock well before Halo. I know, I played Halo way too late. But it was just for me at the time a whole new way of storytelling in a video game that really, really deviated from what I used to think were the stereotypical FPS tropes, as it were. Like, it's not just kill everything, move on. It's like, no, there's it's not just kill everything and move on. It's no, there's shit going on.
Yep.
Yeah. And I also want to give props to Ken Levine too, because he had said it like during the creation of Infinite, like, I'm having family issues and health issues and just like brain failing me. Like, I had a story in mind and I'm done telling that story. I'm really glad I got to have BioShock as a trilogy occur, but I'm done. Like, if 2K games want to make more with BioShock, that's on them. I won't have anything to do with it. I am taking a break from making games.
Yeah, I think these days he's actually working on some lesser known stuff.
I think he's got some like Kickstarter-esque, like smaller publishing things that he's working on.
Yeah, he wanted to go back to small scale video game production the way Irrational was for System Shock 2, which, BioShock 1 is a quote-unquote spiritual successor to System Shock 2. So, the three BioShock games, by nature of their budget and how the big scope that the series wound up happening, he had, gigantic development teams, and finally after BioShock Infinite, he said, I did what I wanted to do with this series. I'm happy. I'm done.
Yep. So,
and yeah, I think 2K is going to probably wind up doing more with the BioShock franchise because AAA titles developers can't leave well enough alone.
I really hope they don't. I feel like
I hope they don't either, but keep going.
I know. Like, I'm hoping that they don't, but I'm pretty sure they will. It's just like BioShock is the series as a whole. It's like, how do you like top a game where you literally have one of the characters breaking the laws of physics?
In all honesty, it would be interesting to see if they could, not necessarily BioShock, but something that has the premise of BioShock, but in a modern day world. Like a 21st century kind of feel.
Well, I mean, it's been 4 years. I mean, BioShock Infinite came out 4 years ago, and we haven't really heard a peep regarding any sort of game since. So, I mean, maybe this might be one of those rare titles where 2K goes, I think we're good. Hoping. Because, I mean, the three games tie each other up.
Yeah.
You said it yourself. It's a closed timeline game. So,
Mm-hmm. If you want to add on like a modern day game of like, here's a theoretical BioShock 4, like pure theory. It's 2015, somewhere around there, like relatively modern day.
Yep.
Some DC exploration research vessel stumbles upon the ruins of Rapture, and they pull up some of the genetic data from it and basically figure out how to make Adam for the surface. And now you're playing a researcher when all hell breaks loose, when people start getting a hold of Adam, and you now have like literal demigods walking around on a research station, going flipping crazy from all the Adam they're injecting themselves with. And now you have to figure out, like, there's that balance of how much power do I inject in myself and run the risk of going crazy, or do I go full ham Dr. Doom here and just get all the power for myself and become a walking god?
Just make sure that Deep Sea team isn't spearheaded by some corporation like I don't know, like Umbrella.
Yeah, but, okay, but Brian, like my thing would be like, if they want to continue also with the theme of it being a like, there's always some commentary on a societal belief or a societal structure. They could do the concept of this is a concept talked about in like cyberpunk games of the mega corporation. They could say it's like, oh, it's a research vessel that's made by, I don't know, Google, or made by, I don't know, Amazon, or like some other like quote unquote friendly mega corporation. But then as we start seeing more of the researching and all the things going to shit, it's like, oh no, these guys are actually just like soulless assholes, and they kind of knew that this was already here, and that they sent us down as more so as lab rats than anything else.
I mean, I also might, think maybe just as a future idea, if there are still people in Rapture in 2017, if those initial citizens have bred
and have retained their sanity or even their humanoid shape,
that might be as interesting to have some sort of like researcher find Rapture in 2017 and have a peek.
I mean, it's definitely possible. It'd be 60 years roughly.
Almost, yeah.
Like that's like 2 generations of genetic.
And because basically at this point, if the contact from if they still for some stupid reason haven't left the damn ocean, like it'd be a nice sort of time capsule effect. Like, here you are, 2017, the internet, social media, all the modern conveniences we have, and this still, you go down in the bathysphere and suddenly it's Mama loves Mambo, dude, and just like, whoa! Or, maybe Verizon finally put Fios down there or something. And they're like, yeah, we were there before you.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I think there could be some...
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if 2K is going to go anywhere with it, but...
Yeah, probably not.
I'm hoping they don't, but knowing them, knowing a AAA studio, they probably will.
Well, I'm surprised. Yeah, Ken Levine basically gave 2K their blessing, saying, if you want to keep doing anything with BioShock, fine, but I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he wanted to do, and so well done to him and all of Irrational Games for really a amazing trilogy. I mean, 2 wasn't, 2 was probably the weakest of the series, but still, it was an okay game. I mean, I'd play it again.
Same.
So, any more thoughts on this before we put this to bed?
One last thing that I want to add in, just because, to me, it seemed like, well, actually, I think this game came out a little bit later than that. BioShock, the themes in it and everything else, actually are a lot like another game that I've played, and you've probably heard of it, Brian, Dishonored.
I have heard of it. I've never played it.
Dishonored, the themes in both BioShock and Dishonored are actually very, very similar to each other. It's like you got the dystopian society. You're trying to you're seeing like what the society itself is like and whatnot. It does differ in quite a few things, but there are some similar things with it. Maybe on another episode I can go into a little bit more on Dishonored and like what it has. But with BioShock itself, one of the main things again I liked is not only that just themes, but just the graphics and artwork that were with it in general just blew me away when I first started. And I don't know how the hell they were able to keep up with such an amazing like game world, and just the maps and everything on it. They were just incredible to play through. And when you actually got to see like the disparity that was going on in the worlds, and just like how everything was going on, it was definitely one of the most interesting games, and I can't say it's my favorite game series of all time because there's a couple others that beat that, but it was definitely one of the most enjoyable ones I went through, and just to get to go through Rapture in Columbia was probably one of the coolest things that they did for BioShock.
Ron, anything else from you?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. And I'm good as well. So, if you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts on this episode, or any other episode of downloadable content, you can let us know on dlcpodcast.com. Use the feedback button. You can also check out every single episode there, as well as iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music. It's all there. Facebook, Twitter, hit us up there. And I think that is going to do it. So, play these games. They're on Steam, they're on PS3, they're on Xbox 360. Play them if you haven't. Or if you have, play them again. Go right ahead. So, all it remains for me to do is to thank Ron and Ryan for being on this episode. So, with that, I am Brian. Have a good one, everybody.
You often miss when you close your earthly story. Will you join them in their bliss? Will the circle be unbroken by and by? By and by is a better home awaiting in the sky, in the sky, in the joyous days of childhood. Oft they told of wondrous love, pointed to the dying Savior. Now they dwell with him above. Will the circle be unbroken by and by? By and by is a better home awaiting in the sky, in the sky. You